Hey everyone, coconut water maxing. Gotta stay hydrated because today we will, as in me and you, because I love you. We'll be reacting to Kamala Harris speaks with National Association of Black Journalists on CBS News. I've had a person ask me, why don't I talk about Donald Trump? And it's because people talk about him a lot. Probably more than anything else in the entire world. And Kamala Harris, all the people who supposedly love her didn't really have anything to say about her throughout her entire vice presidency. And she totally skipped the primary. So she's running late, and I'm helping her catch up by talking more about her. Because she's a very special woman. Like, very special. Like, this specialness is off the charts. Like, in a handicapped sort of way. Kamala Harris is a very handicapped type of person, mentally, mostly. And that's kind of why she's so hot. Nothing says sexy quite like melting woman with brain disabilities. I think that this does constitute as self-harm. I hope YouTube won't take me down for committing violence upon self on camera and uploading it to the internet. Let's see, camel face. What do you have to say to the National Association of Black Journalists? I'm surprised that the Association of Black Journalists want to interview this Indian so badly. All right. 2, 1, boop.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for doing this and making the time.
Of course.
Just a little bit busy right now. We want to start on an issue that Americans across the country say is their #1 concern, and that's the economy.
Okay.
A question that has been asked of you and everybody that's on the Democratic side is whether or not voters are better off now than
They always
were 4
started
years
with this
ago.
question.
Are they better off
So
now
far,
than they
she's
were
never
4 years
answered
ago?
it. That's probably why they keep
So
asking
when
her.
we came into, well, first of all, let me just say, it is good to be with the National Association of Black Journalists, and I thank you for the work you do and that your members do every day. It is very
Oh my gosh,
important
just
that
answer
we
the question,
ensure
Kamala.
that this organization and your members
I'm having
always
deja
have
vu.
the
Instant
resources and
deflect.
platforms to
Is she gonna answer it?
deliver the voices that must be
Get
heard.
away
So
from me, you
thank
stupid
for
fly.
hosting me
Probably
today.
Kamala Harris.
4 years ago, when we came in during the worst unemployment.
Oh
since the
my
Great
gosh,
Depression.
she's saying the same thing. Should I
came
watch
in
this? Damn
during
it.
the worst
What have I done?
public health
She's saying the exact same thing she
epidemic
did at CNN
in
and the
centuries.
debate.
We came
Damn
in
it.
after the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Oh my gosh,
And
she's saying the
a lot
exact
of it
same
due
words.
in large part to the mismanagement by the former president as it relates to COVID and obviously January 6th.
Oh yeah.
And we had then a lot of work to do to clean up a mess. As of today, we have created over 16 million new jobs, over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs.
That's a false number.
We have the lowest
Already
black
debunked.
unemployment rate in generations. We have invested in small businesses.
Yes, you
and
have.
they're to the
So you
benefit
say.
of many people, but including black small businesses, some of the highest rate of creation of new black small businesses in years.
What is that rate?
We have done the work of capping the cost of prescription medication for our seniors for issues like insulin. And again, I'm speaking to the black journalists who care about all people.
Oh my
but in particular, I'll
gosh.
talk about the impact on black people.
I shouldn't have
Where
watched
we know
this.
black folks are 60
This is
times more
self-harm.
likely, 60%, more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. And we have now finally capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month, capped the cost of prescription medication for our seniors at $2,000 a year, because we, unlike the former president who promised to do it, we finally have allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices against the big pharmaceutical companies. And these are just some of the accomplishments. Is the price of groceries still too high? Yes. Do we have more work to do? Yes. And I will tell you, I do believe that I offer
You could be
a new
doing work right
generation
now.
of
You said
leadership
you're
for our
campaigning.
country that is about, in particular, turning the page on an era that sadly has shown us attempts by some to incite fear, to create division in our country, and to do the work that is about bringing some level of optimism and, dare I say, ambition about what I know is possible in our country.
Kamala.
And so my plan for the economy includes what I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy.
An opportunity?
What we can do to grow an opportunity economy where all people have access to the resources to compete, to apply their incredible work ethic, their ambition, their aspirations, and their dreams.
This is the most
and
nothing thing
actually
I've ever heard.
Not just get by, but get ahead. And I can talk
Why is she
in
breathing
more
like
detail
she's
about
afraid?
it, but specifically, I'll mention a few things.
Yeah.
One of the big issues that affects people right now in terms of the economy and their economic well-being is we have a shortage of housing supply.
Okay.
It's too expensive. People can't afford to buy a home.
Oh, this is a stupid
we
plug.
grew up, our parents, where they had the ability to somehow believe the American dream was attainable. Not so much for younger working people. And I recognize
her voice.
that. So my approach is a new approach, which is to say, let's just take this and deal with it head on. And part of my approach is to say, I'm going to
pause this really quick. It's what, 4 minutes? Yeah, okay. So one of the worst things about this is that my screen recorder on my phone has the timer on it, so I know exactly how far I've gotten, which is not very far. This is 45 minutes. Anyways, continue.
Employ and engage the private sector, in particular home builders with tax credits, to give them the incentive to create new housing, 3 million by the end of my first term, and understanding that not everybody is, handed a silver spoon.
She looks miserable.
But works hard and is trying to save up for a down payment. Part of my plan under my opportunity economy is to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance.
Nothing could go wrong with that.
So they can just get their foot in the door to be able to then
People
engage in what will prove to be
increase the
their
price of
opportunity
houses
to
over
build
that.
intergenerational wealth. And here's my personal experience coming at that.
Kamala, you have no
I grew up a
experience
middle-class
with
kid.
anything.
My mother was hardworking. She raised me and my sister Maya.
Yeah.
She saved up, and it was
My
only
mother
by
raised
the time
me
I was a
and 7
teenager
other of my
that
siblings.
she could afford to
Why is
actually
this a
buy
flex?
her first home. And I know, and I identify with,
say?
I know where I, my personal experience coming at that. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother was hardworking. She raised me and my sister Maya. She saved up, and it was only by the time I was a teenager that she could afford to actually buy her first home. And I know, and I identify with, I know where I come from.
Madam Vice President.
And I know, but I'm just going to finish. I know that so many people.
Hardworking mother raised me. I guess, what, did she just not have a dad or something? I mean, that's not bad if you can just I can buy a home while raising 2 kids and be able to afford a home. Okay, being a single mom and being able to buy a home in just like a decade while also simultaneously raising your kids isn't I mean, I guess the flex is that her mother was hardworking. I don't know where her father was. See, she's talking about it being relatable, and I'm struggling to I'm trying to find it relatable in some way, but I'm just trying to decipher it.
Work so hard and should have the
And
opportunity
again,
to just
I
get their
can't
foot in
remember
the
what the
door. Again,
question
so
was
it's
the
not just
economy.
about getting
Jeez
by, but
Louise.
getting ahead. Please.
I'd like to ask you
I would
more
like to ask you
about
more.
the opportunity economy. Housing is a part of it, as well as expanding the earned income tax credit,
Yeah.
She
financial support,
rambles.
as you
Okay,
mentioned, for first-time
people
buyers.
talk about how Trump will go on a tangent. At least Trump stays on the same subject. At least when he goes on a long rant about the border, at least he goes on about the border. Kamala Harris just runs through so many different subjects. It's insane. And it always has to go with her past family thing. I don't know what she thinks she's doing. What is the thought? I guess there is no thought. I don't know what I'm trying to interpret here. She's clearly not thinking at all. And she just goes on autopilot. Her soul probably leaves her body, and there's probably some shade. If anyone knows what a shade is, it's like a ghost. that manipulates her body and makes her say things while she is unconscious because her soul isn't there. She lets a shade occupy her body while her soul leaves it. It's part of her ability.
And a $50,000 tax deduction for startups and small businesses.
Yes.
Yes.
But I want to talk to you about the squeeze that
Oh,
millions of
squeeze?
Americans are also dealing with that impacts their ability to work and make money, and that is childcare and
Yeah.
elder care.
Yeah.
And it's a squeeze for millions of people.
Kamala Harris doesn't know what she's doing here.
In some parts of the
She
country,
doesn't even know
it
why she's
costs
running for
more
president.
for childcare than for
Ah,
rents. I think
that's right.
Bloomberg recently reported an average of $33,000 a year. So I'm just wondering, you mentioned that in your opportunity economy, a child tax credit, but that's just one part of an
Yeah.
ecosystem.
Right.
Please tell us, what plans will you propose to guarantee that families can actually afford childcare and elder care?
So to your point, it is
Just answer,
It is-
Kamala.
sadly the state of affairs in our country that working people often have
She
to
didn't
decide
understand the question,
to
so
either
she's
be
like
able to work
trying to
or
climb
be
her
able
way
to
through
afford
it.
childcare. Like they can't afford childcare and actually do the work that they want to do because it's too expensive and it doesn't actually level out in terms of the expense versus the income. My plan is that no family, no working family should pay more than 7% of their income in childcare. Because I know that
Oh, do you?
when you talk about the return on that investment, allowing people to work, allowing people to pursue their dreams in terms of how they want to work, where they want to work, benefits us all. It strengthens the entire economy. We saw, for example, during the pandemic what happened. And it sadly has dissipated as a conversation that we need to resuscitate, which is the number of women
Oh, shut
that had to
up,
leave the
sexist,
workforce
man-hating.
because of a lack of child care and
Whore.
home health care. And so many of our
Whore.
families, and in particular women, end up carrying the responsibility. Men do too, of course.
yeah.
What
Men,
we call people who are in the
afterthought.
sandwich generation.
Exactly.
Who have
Exactly.
young children and are also taking care of their parents. And it is just absolutely too expensive for them to be able to work and do that. So my plan is not only about 7%.
It's funny they ask her a question about a problem, and then she goes on a tangent explaining the problem. She's done this before.
Of income for working people for child care. But also, we need to do better for our child care providers and our health care providers in terms of ensuring that they receive the wages that they deserve based on the dignity of their work. I have spent time with home health care providers, and their work is some
Kamala,
of the
there's
most
water
taxing
right in
work
front
you
of
can
you. Just
imagine.
take a sip.
And I actually, when my mother was sick with cancer,
Oh, shut up about your mother.
did a lot in terms of
Kamala,
taking care of
no one
her.
cares about your mother.
And
No one cares except you, because
the
it's your mother, not
work
theirs.
that is about
Shut
taking
up
care
about
of
your
a
mother.
loved one, in particular an elder, is extraordinarily heavy in terms of the emotional
heavy.
toll, the time it takes, and we do it because that is what we do. But not everyone has the ability to take time from work to do it.
We do
and
it
they
'cause
need
that is
help.
what we
And we
do.
need to make sure we have home health care workers that can help them. But I want to also get back to the earlier point that you made about extending the child tax credit. So part of my new approach is we need to expand the child tax credit. And so part of my plan that is under an opportunity economy is to extend and expand the child tax credit to $6,000 so that young families in particular, for the first year of their child's life, which is an extraordinarily important time in
Wow,
their
she knows how to
development,
milk time.
have the resources to be able to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy children's clothing, and not have to worry about whether they're going to be able to meet their other needs. And I don't need to remind anybody here, especially these esteemed journalists, but when we expanded the child tax credit a couple of years ago, we reduced Black child poverty by half.
Milking the people in front of you.
And so again, if you talk about the benefit and if you think about the benefit to the economy overall, it strengthens our economy to do things like pay attention to affordable child care, affordable home health care, and extending the child tax credit.
Madam Vice President, Black men, as you know, are a closely watched voting bloc. You've hosted black men at your residence.
Yep.
You have engaged black men and centered them in your
On to the black questions.
economic
That's what it should be
opportunity
all
tour.
about.
But polling shows that some black men, particularly young black men, are considering voting for Donald Trump, and they see him as better for the economy. What is your message to young black male voters who feel left out of this economy,
Finally,
and how
a
can
different type
your
of
economic
question.
policies materially change their lives?
So I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I'll tell you, I've often been asked this question
What are you
in a way that
talking
I've
about?
had to respond by first saying that I think it's very important to not
Who asks her this?
operate from the assumption that black men
Who? I don't know what she's about to say. Wow, that's a terrible face. Ugh, gross. I mean, she's hot, but who has asked her many times, like addressing to her that Donald Trump has been gaining support from black men in particular because they think that he is better for them regarding the economy? I mean, I haven't watched every single well, the thing is, Kamala Harris has done like what, 4 interviews, I think, before this. I don't know if that's counting the debate and her CNN, because I watched all of her CNN interview, and I watched the debate. This was not asked, and I've seen plenty of clips floating around of people asking her questions. She doesn't answer them a lot of the time. What suggests that she's been asked this many times? Anyways, go on.
are in anybody's pocket.
Okay, wait.
Black men are very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket.
Oh, shut up.
Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So
Oh, gosh,
I'm
she's
working to earn the
insufferable.
vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black.
You're not
but
black.
because
You're part
the
black.
policies and the perspectives I have understands
Maybe
what
more
we must
Indian.
do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I intend to be a president for all people. Specifically as it relates
this
to
is a
what
hard
we need to
dodge.
do, to your point around economic
okay, never mind.
opportunity. Yes, I started way before I was at the top of the ticket what I called an economic opportunity tour, focused on black men. Understanding that, for example, we have so many entrepreneurs in the community who do not have access to capital, but they've got great ideas, an incredible work ethic, the ambition, the aspiration, the dream, but don't have the relationships necessarily. So my work has included, as vice president, getting billions more dollars into community banks, including working with the big banks to do that, so that we can increase access to capital for our small businesses, for our startups. Part of my plan under my economic opportunity plan going forward is that right now, startup entrepreneurs, small businesses only get a tax deduction of $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So I'm expanding that to $50,000.
What about people who are trying to keep their small businesses? She talks about a lot about like startups. Beyond that, like, what about sustaining? She doesn't talk about sustaining anything, keeping anything going. Like, oh, you can get started, and then what? You get started, and then the prices get jacked because she's just dumping money into people who are just getting started. And who knows if she'll even do it. We don't know. It's all just her word. So far, everything suggests she's just going to keep doing what Joe Biden's been doing.
Understanding, again, that when people have the opportunity to have the resources to get started, they're going to put the good ideas, they're going to put the hard work into it. And part of what
does
I also
getting
know
started
is
have
that
to do with
our young black men, our black
the
men, just like
ongo-
any group of people, anybody, our small businesses are really the backbone of our economy
Yes.
overall.
So
And
what are
when
you gonna
they
do to
better
support them other than
economically,
dumping,
we all do better. Part
like,
of my
money
work is
into
about
new
understanding what
small
we need to do
businesses?
in dealing with, for example, the historic inequities that have faced the black community around home
I want to
ownership.
know how many people are desperately trying to start their own small business. I might research that when I edit this. But how many people are trying to actively get their small business started? Is it like a small, medium, or is it a gigantic number? I don't know. It's kind of an interesting question because I know there's a lot of people who are suffering right now under the economy. How often do you see someone say, "Yeah, I'm just trying to get my small business started"? She's making it sound like that's what most people are trying to do. Most people do not want to start their own business, for starters, because being a business owner is a whole different ballgame than just simply working a job and going home.
Right? I don't have to go through the history with anybody here about what that has meant in terms of redlining, what that has meant in terms of biases and home appraisals, and the impact it has had on stemming the opportunity to build intergenerational wealth because of those obstacles. So part of the work that I have done and will continue to do is identify, speak truth about those obstacles, and address them. Another example is medical debt. 1 in 4 Black families or individuals is more likely to carry medical debt than others. So part of my perspective, and as vice president, part of the work that we have done is to say that we're going to eliminate medical debt from being on your credit score. Because until now, medical debt worked against your credit score, and people know their credit score like your weight, right? You know that number. And the difference between what that number is and what it needs to be is the difference between you being able to get a car loan, a small business loan, or even a lease on an apartment. And so part of my approach is understanding the obstacles that traditionally and currently exist to allow anyone, including Black men, be able to achieve economic wealth. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think it is sufficient to just only talk about economic policy around reducing unemployment. It is an important marker, and I'm proud of the work that we've done thus far. But it should be a baseline there. Everybody's working. The point is, do people have an opportunity to build wealth? If that's what they choose to do, if that's what they want to do. And a lot of my perspective as we go forward is just that.
What if they don't?
I believe that there are a lot of opportunities that are available to the American people if we see people and understand what they want for themselves and their families and then meet them where they are.
Madam Vice President, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the war.
Wait, hang on. Hold the phone.
They want for themselves and their families and then meet them where they are.
Madam Vice President, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the war in Gaza. You've called for a ceasefire hostage deal and a two-state solution as an end to the war for many months now. And while you've expressed support for Israel to defend itself, a two-state solution and a ceasefire are at odds with what Benjamin Netanyahu has said is their right to defense. If it matters, as you say, how Israel defends itself, where do you see the line between aggression and defense? And our power as Israel's ally to do something?
Okay, a lot to unpack in what you just said. So let's start with this.
Oh, Kamala.
I
limited brain
absolutely
space.
believe that this war has to end, and it has to end as soon as possible.
I've never heard that before.
And the way that
Sounds
will
like
be
something
achieved
Trump might have
is
said.
by getting a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And we are working around the clock to achieve that end. Stepping back, October 7, 1,200
Is she going to talk about October 7th
Israelis
again?
were
Come
slaughtered.
on.
And actually, and some Americans, by the way, in that number. Slaughtered.
Yes,
Young people
we
who were
heard you
attending
before,
a
camel
concert.
face.
Women were horribly raped.
Yes, that's
And yes,
exactly
so I
what you
have
said.
Israel
It
has
is
a right
horrible.
to defend itself. We would.
Why are you saying the exact same
And-
thing
Madam
word
Vice
for word
President, I
again?
think my
Oh my
ask is the
God.
difference
No, let me
between
finish.
I thought it was
aggression and
weird.
But
defense here.
it's important to put it
I thought
in
it was weird when she was repeating herself during the debate, word for word, her CNN interview. Now she's just saying it again here, and now I'm losing my mind. Oh my gosh, we're not even halfway. All right.
context, which is what I'm doing, and I'll get to that. And so how it does so matters. And far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, women and children. We have seen with horror
have
the
heard.
images coming out of Gaza. And we have to take that seriously. And we
Oh, yeah,
have to
because we all know
agree
Kamala's serious.
that not only must we end this war, but we have to have a goal of a two-state solution, because there must be stability and peace in that region, inasmuch as what we do in our goal is to ensure that
If you support Kamala Harris, think about the fact that you're probably smarter than her in every way, shape, or form. And do you want someone stupider than you running the country?
Israelis have security and Palestinians in equal measure have security, have self-determination, and dignity.
A question for you on that, though. What levers does the U.S. have to support Palestinians in their right to self-determination? And is it even possible
Kamala Harris
as
looks
Israel's
so
ally?
small compared to these people.
Well, absolutely. I will tell you, I have been
Nice head of lettuce
actively
in the middle of
involved
the table.
in, for example, meeting not only with Israeli officials, but with Arab officials to talk about how we can construct a day after scenario where we participate in ensuring those exact goals that I outlined, including, as part of the principles that should be applied to those goals, that there be no reoccupation of Gaza, that there be no changing of the territorial lines in Gaza, that there be an ability to have security in the region for all concerned, in a way that we create stability, and let us also recognize in a way that ensures that Iran is not empowered in this whole scenario in terms of the peace and stability of the region. But absolutely, the United States of America absolutely has a role, which is why we have been active, in particular with the Qataris and the Egyptians, around attempting to get a deal done and get it done as quickly as possible.
But Madam Vice President, just to follow up really quickly, is there a specific policy change that you, as President of the United States, would say you would do that would help this along? Because
All right,
you've gotten a
here
lot
we
of
go.
credit for emphasizing the humanity of Palestinians. But what I often hear from folks is that there's no policy change that either you or President Biden have gone and said they would do. Is there a specific policy change as president that you would do in our helping of Israel?
We
in
need
this
to
war?
get this deal done.
Oh, shut
We
up.
need to get it done immediately, and that is my
Basically, no.
position, and that is my policy. We need to get this deal done.
That's not
But
a...
in the way that we send weapons, in the way that we interact as their ally, are there specific policy changes?
Well, Eugene, for example, one of the things that we have done that I am entirely supportive of is the pause that we've put on
doesn't
the
have a policy.
2,000-pound bombs. And so there is some leverage that we have had and used. But ultimately, the thing that is going to unlock everything else in that region is getting this deal done. And
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to disclose private conversations, but I will tell you, I've had direct conversations with the Prime Minister, with
What about the
the
private
President
ones?
of Israel, with Egyptian leaders, and with our allies. And I think we've made ourselves very clear.
That's such a farce. Obviously, she's talked to all these people. She's the vice president.
This deal needs to get done in the best interest of everyone in the region.
That was a
including
total
getting
dodge.
those hostages out who, I mean, we saw the latest example of what
yeah,
happened
whatever,
with the
like, man.
6 most recently, one of whom was an American citizen.
But what do you say to those that say that's not enough, that stopping the
this
2,000
guy's
pound
pressing
bombs
her.
the one time wasn't enough, that this administration, your possible administration, has to do more?
Round two,
Well,
Kamala.
we are doing the work of putting the pressure on
Oh,
all
are you?
parties involved to get the deal done.
There's no way you can say that with Joe Biden spending 45 years worth of vacation on the beach. You're not putting the pressure on anything.
But let me be very clear also.
Kamala, you're the
I
least clear
support
person I've
Israel's
ever seen.
ability to defend itself. And I support the need for Palestinians to have.
Are we halfway through? Okay. We're about...
dignity, self-determination, and security as we move forward and get a two-state deal done. But right now, the thing we need to get done is this hostage deal and this ceasefire deal. We need a ceasefire. We need the hostage deal.
And
I want to
Kamala,
switch
you're the
gears
least.
to racial justice,
Okay,
Madam
wait,
Vice
wait.
President.
Racial justice. Okay, new question.
Last month, you eulogized Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah.
Jackson Lee's signature bill, one of a few, was H.R. 40, which would create a commission to study the history of U.S. slavery and study the issue of reparations. She introduced H.R. 40 every session of Congress, taking up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. This is a bill that you have co-sponsored as a U.S. Senator. Yet, this has, despite the fact that this has been, similar commissions have been created on the state level and on the local level.
feel bad
is
for the
yet to pass in
audience.
Congress, let alone come out
I
of
feel bad for
committee.
myself.
Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and other advocates have called for President Biden to take executive action to create this commission. Would you, as president, take executive action to create this commission, or do you believe that it should happen in Congress?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, Sheila Jackson Lee, she was an extraordinary leader who we just recently lost, and she was a friend and a real champion for so many issues. So
I wonder if she says this
feel compelled to
nonsense
say that about her.
to like,
On the
she just
issue
goes on
of,
autopilot with nonsense while she's working other things out in her
what we need to
head.
do going forward. Look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history, in spite of the fact that some people are trying to erase history and try and teach our children otherwise.
Oh,
We
shut
need
up,
to
you
speak
whore.
truth
You
about
whore.
the generational impact of
Dumb
our
skank.
history, in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law. I could go on and on and on. These are facts that
Shut
have
up.
had impact. And
Stop it, Kamala.
we need to.
Your
we need
stupid
to
is
speak truth
showing
about it.
blood. It's,
And we need
oh
to speak
gosh,
truth
it's
about
wet.
it in a way that is about driving solutions. And frankly, I think that we, and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly what we need to do. But part of what we can do right now is, for example, what I'm talking about in terms of building an opportunity economy, which is addressing explicitly the obstacles that historically and currently exist and dealing with them. Student loan debt, medical debt, bias in home appraisals. What we need to do in terms of dealing with an issue that I have championed for years, Black maternal mortality.
It's kind of incredible how no matter what question they throw at her, she brings it back to her
and
like same
we know
3
that
or 5
the reasons for
points.
that include disparities that pre-exist her pregnancy, including disparities that exist in the system during her pregnancy. So all of those things must be addressed.
But do you have a position on whether that should happen, this commission should happen through executive order or via Congress?
I think Congress ultimately will have the ability to do this work. I'm not discounting the importance of any executive action, but ultimately Congress. Because if you're going to talk about it in any substantial way, there will be hearings, there will be a level of public education and dialogue that
She just does not look,
the spirit behind
talk, or
the
act like a
congressional action
leader
thus
in
far,
any shape or form.
to ensure that everyone can participate in this conversation in a way that elevates
I feel like I'm a spectator at a
knowledge
zoo
about
watching some
history
animal do
and the
something
reference
strange.
points that have that are the impetus of this conversation.
Jeez
Especially
Louise.
again when people are trying to deny history. When people
Who are these people
so-called
denying
leaders
history?
are saying that enslaved people benefited from slavery.
Who are these people denying history? Is it the people trying to tear down the statues of our founding fathers? Are the people who are like destroying art in museums and stuff and burning down businesses? Are these the people? Who are the people who are trying to do this?
I mean, let's talk about the Delta here in terms of the work that needs to be done. It's profound.
Oh my
Because I
gosh,
wanna move to
so
Springfield,
profound.
Ohio, and what's happening
Yeah.
there. We've seen school
Let us-
closures,
Yeah.
parents worried about their kids leaving the home because of racist conspiracy theories that I won't repeat here, but they have been repeated by leaders on the Republican side, President Trump, former President Trump, and Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance. From your perspective, is this just a case of irredeemable racism that can't be mitigated by any rational action, or is this a situation in which a federal response could help this community heal? There's a question of resources and
Well, no, I'll let you finish, and then I'll speak.
No, please.
It's a crying shame. I mean, my heart breaks.
Oh, shut up.
This
She's
community.
so fake.
You know, there were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day.
Oh, gosh.
You
I
remember
can't
what
even
that's
look at
like?
her. Oh.
Going to school on picture day. Who were dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were
Don't
going
move
to wear
like
the
that,
night
Kamala.
before,
Please don't move.
and had to be evacuated. Children.
Don't make me laugh, Kamala, during this sad
A
story.
whole community put in fear.
Wait, what's the
And I'll
story?
say a couple things about it. One, you know, I learned a long time ago in my career.
Okay, I'll be honest. I have no idea what the question was. I kind of phased out. And I don't know what she's talking about. For a second, I thought she was talking about a school shooting. Maybe she did. I have no idea, and I'm not going to go back.
Having a background as a prosecutor.
Oh my gosh, shut up.
When you have these
Nobody
positions,
likes
when you have that kind
prosecutors.
of
Prosecutors
microphone
are
in front of
objectively
you,
some of the least
you
likable
really ought to
people.
understand at a very deep
Okay,
level
great. You ruined people's
how much your
lives for a
words have
living.
meaning.
Wow.
I learned at a very young stage in my career that the meaning of my words could impact whether somebody was free or in prison.
Yeah.
As Attorney General, I was of California, fifth largest economy in the world. I was acutely aware that my words could move markets.
Yeah,
When
geez.
you
The amount of
are
power these people get.
bestowed with a microphone that
insane.
is that big, there is a profound responsibility that comes with that.
Profound. How many
That is
times
an
has she said
extension of-
profound now?
What should not be lost in
Like
this
to be
moment,
pro,
this concept of the public
But
trust.
found. Profound.
To then understand what the public trust means.
hope
It
I'm in
means
focus.
that you have been invested with trust to be responsible in the way you use your words, much less how you conduct yourself. And especially when you have been and then seek to be again President of the United States of America. And so I go back to, it's a
Making sure my
crying
mic is
shame,
on.
literally. What's happening to those families, those children in that community, not to mention what is happening in terms of, look, you say you care about law enforcement resources being put into this because of these serious threats that are being issued against a community that is
Her facial expressions
a
and hair
productive,
makes me
good
think
life
she's
before
like
this
some sort
happened.
of hungover skank.
and spewing lies
No offense.
that are grounded in tropes that are age old. And look, I said it not very far from here
Look at
the
her.
other day at the debate.
Ugh.
This is not new. This is not new in terms of these tropes. This is not new in terms of where it's coming from. And, you know, whether it is refusing to rent to people, rent to black families, whether it is taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against 5 innocent black and Latino teenagers, the Central Park 5, calling for their execution, whether it is referring to the first black president of the United States with a lie, birther lies.
Nice.
And look,
She doesn't know what she's talking about at all.
The American
Can't believe
people
she believes
deserve,
this
and
stuff.
I do believe, want better than this. I do believe
I mean, I don't know why they always bring up the Obama thing. Like, oh, Obama wasn't born in the United States. Stupid flies. They get for not recording in a proper location. I don't know why they bring up the Obama thing. Like, as if that's like the worst thing ever. Like, clearly Obama wasn't hurt by it. I don't know why everyone was hurt by it and Obama just laughed it off. Why can't they just laugh it off as well? They're acting like Trump committed some sort of irredeemable sin by questioning where Obama was born. I just simply don't get it. Like, Obama clearly doesn't care.
I know.
Oh, do you?
The vast majority of us as Americans know we have so much more in common than what separates us. I know that. I know that regardless of someone's background, their race, their gender, their geographic location, I know that people are deeply troubled by what is happening to that community in Springfield, Ohio. And it's got to stop. And we've got to say that you cannot be entrusted with standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America, engaging in that hateful rhetoric that, as usual, is designed
Lens cap.
to divide us as a country, is designed to have people pointing fingers at each other. It's designed to do that. And I think most people in our country, regardless of their race, are starting to see through this nonsense and to say, you know what, let's turn the page on this. This is exhausting and it's harmful.
That's exactly what's happening right now.
And it's hateful.
That too.
And grounded in some age-old stuff.
That's exactly what she is.
We should not have the tolerance for.
That's exactly what her body's made out of.
So let's turn the page and chart a new way forward and say, you can't have that microphone again.
She shouldn't.
Madam Vice President, I'm switching gears again.
Okay.
Quick question. I want to talk to you about gun control. So
All right. See what
you've
you
said you
say.
support an assault weapons ban
Kamala
and
said she
universal
owns a
background
gun.
checks, and we actually learned during
Sounds
the
kinda
debate
dangerous.
that you are a gun owner. But in cities like Philadelphia, handguns are responsible for most homicides and violent crime. The most recent FBI data shows handguns were involved in 59% of murders in our country. How will you address the issue of the use of handguns? Because a push for an assault weapons ban only addresses a significant but small part of the problem.
It's kind of a brutal question for her.
First of all, yes, I am a gun owner, and Tim Walz is a gun owner, and we're not trying to take anybody's guns away from them.
No one.
But we do need an assault weapons ban. Assault weapons are designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly.
Yeah, Kamala, but that's
and
not the
have no
question.
place-
The question's
and
about
have no
handguns.
place- I'm going to get to it.
Yes.
And have no place on the streets of a civil society. We need universal background checks, which, to your point about handguns, is about saying that it is just reasonable to want reasonable gun safety laws that say we should do background checks that we ought to know. It's just reasonable. You might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You might just want to know.
And respectfully, we do understand that.
But
Yeah,
you're
Kamala,
asking
they're not
about-
stupid.
I'm asking
Stop treating them
specifically
like they're
about
stupid.
handguns, because many of those handguns aren't
Universal
purchased in
background
places.
checks
Yes,
apply to handguns.
yes.
they do.
But in
And
many
s-
instances, those handguns aren't even bought lawfully. Yes.
Which is why I also have been very adamant for years. In fact, I myself protested at a gun show probably 10, 15 years ago about the gun show loophole and why we need to close that. Because what ends up happening
just say you don't
is that
know.
gun shows at flea markets, gun dealers are not, under existing law in the past, required to register their sales. And so you are exactly right that a lot of homicides, for example, a good number of them, I don't have the statistic in front of my mind, are committed with illegally purchased guns. And that's why we need to address each entry point in the issue, including universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, and what we need to do as a general matter to focus not only on reaction to crime, but prevention of crime. So you're raising a very important
doesn't
issue that
understand
has many
anything.
facets.
This is so out of her
including what we need to
realm.
do in terms of
Her
reasonable
realm's
gun
already
safety
really small,
laws,
though.
and what we need to do around crime prevention, what we need to do around crime deterrence. But listen, I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have held the hands of mothers.
Quit
who have
touching
come
yourself,
to me
Kamala.
crying,
Jeez
who
Louise.
said, "I
I'm
only
so
wanna
sick
talk
of
to
the
Kamala,"
prosecutor thing.
because they knew when they sat down, I would treat them with the dignity and respect that they were entitled and due about
Well,
the
she's
loss of
trying
their
so hard to
child,
like
often
not
their
answer this
son,
question because she
to gun
can't.
violence and the need to take it seriously. And we must take it seriously.
Oh,
In every way, understanding it's not just about
what are you going to do about
soundbite.
this problem? We'll take it
It's
seriously.
about a comprehensive approach that
Kamala,
deals
you're
with
not
the
a serious
tragedy
person.
Of, to your
You're
point,
joyful.
everyday gun violence in America. It's real. It has had a profound impact
Profound
in terms
again.
of trauma that for the most part has gone undiagnosed and untreated. The trauma that exists in communities around the violence of losing their children, losing a brother, losing a father, an uncle. All of that must be addressed, and we have to have a holistic response to
Are
it.
there things we haven't thought about yet? Because every time we bring up this issue of gun violence, universal background checks comes up and a ban on assault weapons.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can drop my 2 cents on the gun thing. Make it clear, concise, fast. Oh, thank goodness. Less than 10 minutes left. I don't think many people realize that that people resort to violence due to the environment. Like, if you're living in a gutter environment, you're probably going to commit violent acts. If your house is just a total mess and there's like chores and everything, and there's stuff to do. Dishes are filthy. There's bugs in the garbage. There's someone left their food out and it grew mold and there's flies all over it. The TV's busted. Kids are crying. You're not going to be in a state of nonviolence. Your mind is going to become violent. How about you fix the environment around them so violence doesn't have a place to spawn from in the first place? I mean, some people are just straight up mentally destroyed, like even from childhood, their mentality's gone. But not everyone who kills people are psychopaths. A lot of them just break at some point, like full snap. Like, I guess the Joker. It's probably why people like him as a villain, because it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of relatable. Everyone kind of has their breaking points, and some people will just break harder than others. Because it's like, okay, you can check the person's background all you want. You're not checking the society around that person.
Are there other solutions that you're also thinking about that will get at this issue?
Absolutely. For example, part of what we did
Lettuce.
as vice president and with the president, we were able to pass the first meaningful gun safety legislation in 30 years. And part of what that involved was millions and millions of dollars to put more mental health counselors in public schools, right? Because we know that there is an aspect of this that is about
environment.
treating the trauma
I mean, mental
and
health
dealing
is
with
also-
it at its source before it ends up manifesting itself in a problem.
What
There
causes
is
the
the
mental
work
health?
that we need to do that is about putting resources into communities around violence prevention. I've been a big advocate of that for years, which includes what we need to do around putting resources into community-based intervention that is not just requiring on the good people in the community to volunteer to do the intervention, but actually paying people to do it because it's a full-time job. It's about understanding what we need to do
Kamala
to,
Harris,
again,
you should realize how
understand
much
that,
wasteful
to your
spending the
point,
government
we have to have
does.
a
We can
holistic
afford to
response
spend
to this issue
or to pay
and
these people.
prioritize it instead of reacting to the tragedy that sadly they are too predictable. Let's all agree, enough of that. There are very few solutions that we haven't thought of. We need to put the resources into them.
Madam Vice President,
She
we
looks
want to
so
move to the
shook.
topic of reproductive access, something
Yeah.
that you have worked in leading on, both for the administration, Democrats, and now the top of the ticket. You've said that as president, you would want to codify Roe. If it came to your desk, you would sign a bill that did that. Roe protected access until fetal viability, which it also says is, quote, at about 7 months, but it may occur earlier, even at 24 weeks. So do you similarly support also codifying Roe's restrictions, which allowed states to ban abortion in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy unless necessary to save the mother's life?
We need to put the protections of Roe v. Wade back into law. And when that bill gets passed by Congress, I will proudly sign it into law. Understand what is happening in our country. Over 20 states have passed what I call Trump abortion bans, because I understand how we got here. The former president handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. They did as he intended, and in state after state, laws have been passed criminalizing healthcare providers. I don't know if anyone here has heard most recently the stories out of Georgia. Tragic story about a young woman who died because it appears the people who should have given her health care were afraid they'd be criminalized after the Dobbs decision came down. Laws that make no exception even for rape or incest, which means that you're
Trump says he believes in the exceptions.
telling a survivor of a crime, of a violation to their body, that they have no right to make a decision about what happens to their body next, which is immoral.
Trump believes in the exceptions.
An approach that doesn't take into account that most people, I think, agree you don't have to abandon your faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. If she chooses, she will talk with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her imam. But it should not be the government or Donald Trump telling her what to do about her own body and her life. So that's where I stand. We need to put back in place the protection of Roe v. Wade and put that into law.
And those restrictions that are also in
We need to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade and let an individual, in consultation with her doctor, make the decision based on what she can determine, because she's smart enough to know what's in her best interest instead of having her government tell her what to do, especially a bunch of people in these state capitals.
I was gonna say not true. Definitely not true. Based on the statistics of why women get abortions in the first place, a lot of it is because, obviously not the majority. Well, was it the majority? I can't remember. I remember it was pretty high. It was like outside sources convincing them not, or like to go through with it. Boyfriends, maybe their own mothers. Which happens. Most of the stories I hear about women who are faced with that decision they're always like in the state of, what the heck do I do? Because it is kind of like a freaky situation. Okay, you have this baby you weren't expecting to have. What the heck do I do? Even people who are intending to have babies, when they find out that they're pregnant, they're like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, what do I do? It's like, you're pregnant, congratulations. But I don't know why Kamala Harris, she's never been a mother. Of course she wouldn't know. What am I saying? Get out of here.
Who think they're in a better position to tell her what to do than she is to know what's in her best interest.
Before we conclude, Madam Vice President, Joyful Warrior has been used to describe
You
your
didn't
campaign.
see that just a minute ago, though.
Joyful warrior.
Okay, back to my joyful part.
And your opponent, Republicans, have at times weaponized you laughing in campaign.
Yeah,
ads,
they're
for
talking about her
example.
laughter. All right.
Why is joy important to you to insert into this election? And what do you make of Republicans using that as a way to suggest that you're
This
not
isn't even a real
serious
question.
candidate?
This is saying, please roast
Well,
Republicans.
sometimes I think, and I'll say to whoever the young people are who are watching this, there are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them.
Ugh.
Don't you let them.
It's not a strength,
I find
Kamala.
joy in the American people.
It's not a strength.
I find joy and optimism.
You find joy in drinking.
in what I
You're a
see
wino.
to be our future and our ability to invest in it. I find joy in the ambition of the people. I find joy in the dreams
Her
of
face
the
is so
people. I
compressed.
find joy in building community. I find joy in building coalitions. I find joy in believing that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, but who you lift up.
And
And,
me? No, the video.
And I think we should all find joy and have a sense of optimism about who we are as Americans and what we mean to each other and what we can do to lift each other up.
Madam Vice President,
Madam-
President Biden spoke to former President Trump after the attempt on his life this weekend. Have you spoken to him?
I have.
And earlier today, I assume?
Yes.
How'd that go? You want to give us some intel?
Sure. I checked on him to see if he was okay.
She asked, hey,
And,
big Donnie boy,
I
How you
told him what
doing?
I have said publicly.
did
There's
my
no place
assassin
for
get you?
political violence in our country. I am in this election and in this race for many reasons, including to fight for our democracy. And in a
This
democracy,
is so ironic.
there is no place for political violence. We can and
So-
should have healthy debates,
We live in a
discussion
democracy.
and disagreements.
Oh, wait.
But
But Kamala, you said that Trump's trying to take away that democracy.
not resort to violence to resolve those issues.
On January 6th, your vehicle was allowed to kind of pass a viable pipe bomb. We've seen.
No, I was in the building.
You were in the building. And we've seen what's happening with former President Trump. Do you have full confidence in the Secret Service to
I do.
protect all of you?
I do.
You feel safe for you and your family?
I do. But, I mean, you can go back to Ohio. Not everybody has Secret Service. And there are far too many people in our country right now who are not feeling safe. I mean, I look at Project 2025.
Oh my
I
gosh.
look at,
Oh
like,
my gosh.
the Don't Say Gay laws coming out of Florida.
Don't
Members
say
of the
gay.
LGBTQ community don't feel safe.
Oh
right
my gosh.
now. Immigrants or people with an immigrant
Come on,
background
Kamala.
don't feel
This is
safe
so
right now.
easy.
Women don't feel safe
How can you
right now.
fail something so easy?
And so, yes, I feel
Project
safe.
2025.
I have Secret Service protection.
And don't say gay.
But that doesn't change my perspective on the importance of fighting for the safety of everybody in our country. And doing everything we can to, again, lift people up and not beat people down so they feel alone
I haven't heard that one before.
and are made to feel small and made to feel like they're somehow
It's almost
not
over.
a part of
Oh, thank goodness.
it or us.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I've appreciated this. Thank you. Thank you.
Boo! Boo!
Thank you.
Ugh, she's so stubby. Watch her bolt. I saw this clip where she shakes her hands. Gotta get out. They cut through their faces. She just ran out. I saw that clip. See, I was confused. I thought this happened at the beginning. So I thought it was cut out at the beginning. I didn't know this was the ending of it. They didn't show their faces. The clip I saw had like the journalists like look at each other like, what? She just ran away. Damn. Oh, crud. Camel face Harris. I don't know if I'll react to anything like this ever again because it seems like she just says the same things every single time. That was by far the worst one though. I'm shocked people aren't watching this and reacting to this. Maybe because it was just so long and painful. But I figured that would be more of a reason to react to it. I mean, okay, I do genuinely regret that. Like, first 5 minutes, I was like, I can't do this. But I did it anyway. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It was a fun ride. Bet Kamala Harris is licking her lips right now. Stripping her clothes. Getting naked. Lying down on her pentagram drawn in blood on the floor of her bedroom. She pours wine over her body, her naked body, and just writhes and just cackles. So hot.